Oh, it's Hero February, everybody. Welcome to the Hero Factory Inspiration series for the month of February. So, how this is going to work, it works like it has the last few years. It's February, and in February, we build heroes or villains. It's completely up to you. If you want to, go on your Flickrs, go on your Instagrams, go wherever you want to post your MOCs and build a hero, build a villain, post it, and give it the hashtag Hero February because, hey, it's a good way to find it. And also, if you wanted to be featured on the show, it makes it super easy for me to find if you just put that hashtag on the post. But yeah, it's just a month to celebrate building heroes and villains from the awesome world of Hero Factory. There's no prize, there's no contest or whatever, but you better believe I'm going to be posting a whole bunch of them all throughout the month of February. So if you have Hero Factory MOCs that you've built or plan to build this month, submit them to the submission email that's on your screen right now, or just hashtag it with Hero February on Instagram, and I'll make sure to be looking through that hashtag all throughout this month and putting what I can in these episodes. But that's enough about what this is. Let's dive into some awesome heroes and villains in Hero February, the month you've all been waiting for. This is by the All-Seeing Eye, and this is Recon Team Bravo 7. So what I like about this MOC is the fact that it's very sort of simplistic. It's just a very typical Hero Factory build. There's no super complex techniques or weird frame designs and stuff. No, it's just your meat and potatoes. It's your typical prefab torsos with shells put over the top of it, and it looks beautiful. It's great to see a little team kind of put together here. The fact that they are all in more sort of stripped back colors, you know, black, gray, a little bit of white thrown in there too. It really does give you that sense of like a, you know, deep military operation, a SEAL Team 6 or Bravo 7 as they were called here. And it's, yeah, they look like some sort of cool covert ops or something you'd see in like Call of Duty or something cool, you know. It's a great, very fitting concept, and it ties back to an actual thing that Hero Factory did, which you may not know about. I guess this is one of the more obscure Hero Factory things. So back in the day, back when you, I think, could still commission models using Lego Digital Designer, when they had that feature where you could buy the model you built, which was so cool. I wish they still did that. But I think it kind of do with Studio. You know what I mean? It was a different experience. You could design the box and stuff. It was fun. Anyway. You could also do a thing with Hero Factory Heroes where you go on the LEGO website and you could build your own hero and then order it and it would come in the post. And what was cool about that is there was an exclusive piece from that. You could get this torso piece here, which was this sort of marbled effect of kind of black at the top and then a bit of grey at the bottom. And this was sort of like the torso for the Hero Recon team kind of thing in that sense. Which was awesome. And we can see the All-Seeing Eye here has used that torso and all of these guys here, and it looks really, really nice. It's such a cool piece, and yeah, you could only get it through those means, so it's a little bit less common these days, but yeah, it works perfectly on these MOCs here. So lovely to see a slightly more obscure piece being used and tying back to actual Hero Factory lore, and yeah, if you know, I think this is such a great idea if you want to be a part of Hero February, but you're like, I'm not that great a builder, or like, I don't know, I don't really have a lot of time. Just slap something together like this that can be super simple, but it's got a really fun concept behind it, or it just looks cool, or there's a little squad of them or something, and then you'll join in on the fun and have a good time. So yeah, love this MOC here. Really, really cool. Next up, we have a MOC by Seeker101, and this is Toxidrone. So as nice as it is to build a hero in the month of Hero February, it's in the name, build a villain, because villains are just as cool. And this is a nice take on a villain as well. I like the fact that he has this big old like barrel of toxic chemicals with him. Of course, it goes with the name. It's kind of a really fun weapon, you know. Somehow he's come across this toxic chemical batch, liquid, radioactive waste, whatever it is. And who knows what he's going to do with it? Does it sort of power him? Does he use it as a weapon? Will one day he open it and then pour it on someone? I don't know. It's a fun thing to think about, I guess, in this context. But it's cool. And I also like the fact that a lot of this MOC has very kind of like spikier textures, using some of the like corroder big old blade pieces on like the feet and the sort of weapon on the arm. And there's even more like spiky pieces from like Scorpio and other different sets and things there. And they're nice parts, and that sort of spikier aesthetic to me kind of looks like almost sort of like a mutated body of sorts. Like the toxic chemicals have got to him and have twisted his body into sinister evil ways, which seems very appropriate for a villain. So yeah, it's pretty cool. One little tiny detail I really enjoy is on the torso there, you can see a printed dish piece there. And yeah, it kind of looks like sort of toxic chemicals sort of coursing through their body in that sense. So yeah, it's a nice little inclusion there. And hey, if you've got printed or stickered elements, be sure to find a way to put them on your mock, because like that, they can be a nice little finishing touch that really just is just the cherry on top. It looks beautiful. Now let us transition into the next mock. This is by Paulix Mock Building, and he said that these are two members of the Hero Factory Recon team. The orange one is Rex, and the other one doesn't have a name yet. So there you go. You can name him in the comments if you want. He looks like he's a pretty easy to name character with the really awesome like weapon that he's got here. So these sort of like rotor blade things here are genius. These are specifically pieces that came on some of the sort of like cyber wave of Ninjago, specifically like on this set in that beautiful trans orange color. And yeah, I think they make for such a fun, unique sort of weapon design, and it kind of reminds me of Transformers almost. To me, one of the things I always liked about Transformers was, you know, obviously the fact that they turn into a vehicle in some way, but some of the really fun vehicles like helicopters or different things, when they transform, you got to find a place to put like the rotor, and sometimes they would use it as an actual weapon, or it would just sort of like stow on their back or whatever, and then maybe that was a little bit, you know, less interesting. But I found it always fun on Transformer toys when in some way the transformation then became a weapon or some sort of interesting feature on the actual toy itself. And I kind of see that here with this mock as well. It doesn't transform, unfortunately, but man, it's so cool seeing giant helicopter blades that could be used as weapons, or maybe it could actually help him to fly. I'm sure it does that as well, but it just looks so cool. And the awesome sort of trans orange combined with the yellow and the black there is a very nice color scheme. It's great to see this sort of like heads up display on the helmet. It kind of gives you like fighter pilot vibes there. So it seems very appropriate and very fitting. I also like that he has a gun arm that can kind of be sort of swapped out. I think that's a very clever idea if you can't really find a way of attaching a weapon. Just build two separate arms, take one off, put the other one on. And it can be like Transformers as well, where they just sort of transform their arm and suddenly it's a gun or something like that. So yeah, obviously that may not be as easy to recreate in LEGO to actually have that kind of play feature, but if you just swap it out, it's more or less the same thing. So yeah, really, really like this guy. And onto the other one, which was Rex. I love the fact that he has these big old wheels on the back there, and he can sort of like, you know, zoom around on those. I thought at first that the foot sort of like folded in and the wheel sort of folded down, so he could either have actual feet or he can sort of go into sort of like skating mode almost. But I don't know, in these images it looks like one foot is a foot and the other one is the wheel, so maybe that's not the case. But then it looks like he's kind of got a prosthetic limb of sorts, which is also a really interesting idea. So either way, I think it's a very cool concept. I also like his color scheme. The orange and the purple is a very sort of striking in-your-face color scheme. Those are two very bold colors that work very nicely together, but it certainly draws your attention in that regard. But sometimes that's nice, you know, and hey, these sort of like wild and crazy colors could maybe give you a bit of an insight into the character. Why does he have such a bright and vibrant color scheme? Is he a bit of a kind of wacky, goofy kind of guy, or someone that likes attention, perhaps? Or maybe he does professional racing because he has the wheels on, and maybe that's the kind of color scheme that he's you know, that fits with his branding in his racing career or something like that. I don't know. That's an interesting idea too. And, you know, if you want to build a Hero Factory mock, could you look into elements of the world that probably exist? Like, do they have professional racing teams? Is there, you know, like a paramedic or something? You know, what kind of other jobs are there in the Hero Factory world that you could maybe build in Hero Factory form? They don't have to just be heroes and villains. You could explore the rest of the world too. So it's a cool idea. A news reporter, perhaps. Who knows? But yeah, I think this is a lovely pair that work very nicely together, and some cool techniques all throughout this. Very nicely done. On to the next one now. This one is a unique one because it doesn't have a name. It's Redacted XL, and this is built by Electro. So right off the bat, he's a big bulking guy here, and he has his big bulky arms, but he's also got these little itty-bitty, almost like T-Rex arms here. And I always enjoy mocks with multiple limbs. It's just a really fun thing to play with here. And I like the fact that there is, I mean, technically it's symmetrical, but, you know, one arm is bigger and the other arm is thinner in that sense. So it's nice to see that if you do give a mock multiple limbs, they don't have to be identical in that sense. You can play with the sizing of them and it can still work really well. So yeah, definitely have a think about that. Like, yes, you could go for a very typical humanoid look, but what if you gave them multiple arms, multiple legs, or didn't even give them arms or legs at all? You could play with, you know, a snake body or a centaur or something like that. You know, see what you can do. But yeah, I love how that looks. And another thing that I really like is on the shoulders on those big bulky arms, we can see a bit of part spamming there with the repeated use of some of these like trap pieces. They were used on the shoulders on Umarak, and they were used as these sort of like little, almost like bear traps of sorts. And they came with most of the little beasts as well in Bionicle G2. It's an awesome piece, and it's great to see it repeated there because it gives it this very sort of kind of jagged, spiky look, which seems very appropriate for a Hero Factory villain in that sense. And it makes for a nice shoulder design as well. So really cool to see that there. And never forget that part spamming is always a great technique. If you've got a lot of one piece, see if you can do something like that, because it's a pretty easy way to get a nice technique going. Other stuff that I like about this is the helmet design. Obviously, it looks very similar to Black Phantom. It's just the same mask, but in gunmetal. But it's nice because that mask had those two bar connection points where you could attach spikes and other different things to it. But it's nice to see very kind of crazy spikes here. You've got some sort of going backwards, but also some almost kind of going down like tusks, or maybe even some sort of weird beard of sorts. But yeah, it makes for a really nice head design there. Definitely play around with certain masks that have weird, crazy connection points on them and see what kind of crazy things you can do, much like this. Can you give them massive, crazy horns or some sort of ornamentation or something? I'm sure there's a lot of creative possibilities there that you can play around with, and it's just a bit of trial and error, see what you can come up with, and you might get some pretty cool results. But yeah, this is a beautiful hulking villain here, and surprisingly, I don't know, I guess you didn't really see too many hulking villains. I guess Von Nebula was the biggest one that you got. Most of them were relatively skinny for the most part. They were normally just taller in that sense. So yeah, kind of playing with different body shapes and sizes is also a fun idea as well. So yeah, love your work here, good sir. And finally, we'll end with an absolutely awesome mock. This is by WowBlock, and this is a revamp of Meltdown, which, again, great idea. If you're looking for something, a little bit of inspiration, what do I build for HF Feb? Revamp some of your favorite characters. I loved Meltdown. I thought he was a fantastic villain. I loved most of that original villain wave. I thought all of them were really cool character designs. So there's certainly a lot of potential that you can play around with here, especially with a revamp like this, which is actually, I would argue, departing a fair bit from the source material. The whole helmet's changed. He doesn't have those sort of toxic barrels. He doesn't even really have the whip anymore, and there's a lot more kind of like black and complete kind of reshaping of the body there. It's really nice, but it still evokes a decent element of what Meltdown looked like. So I love that sort of massive departure in that sense. I think the redone head design is awesome. It's got this interesting almost sort of like V-shaped or kind of like T-visor. It kind of looks like some sort of crazy transformer, or kind of looks like a Mandalorian helmet even. It just looks really nice. And it's nice too to see the original Meltdown head reworked into the torso there, and now the eye kind of looks a little bit more like a heartlight or an arc reactor or like a power core or something. I think it's just really clever. Can you repurpose some of the more key pieces to other places on the mock? If you're revamping it, that could be an interesting sort of idea to inform how you're building it in that sense. It's interesting. Other stuff that I like about this is the new sort of gun design here. I could still see this shooting sort of toxic chemicals and things like that, so it still seems appropriate in that sense. And again, looks cool using one of those larger jet pieces there that came on like Tahu Mystica and stuff like that. I also enjoy seeing all the different claws on this. Again, they're on the arms as they were on the set, but now they're also on the feet here. And the fact that they kind of curve upwards like that, I think is such an interesting way of doing it. You could have had them curve down, so he's actually got larger kind of clawed toes. But I like the fact that this is more sort of like, just like spiked boots almost. I think it's a better fit for this brand new aesthetic, which is a lot more sort of like sleek armor of sorts. It's just so exciting and so cool. I love how that looks. So yeah, I love this massive departure from Meltdown, but man, it's just such a different, fantastic take on the character with so many nice designs and just a brilliant sort of overall character. He just looks so awesome. So hey, that's it for a bunch of heroes. That's it for a bunch of villains. What are you going to build for HF Feb? I'm going to do my best to build something. I know I said that last year, but I was very busy last year. This time I got a little bit more time, but I still want to build all the Toamata in the gift with purchase style. So I'm going to definitely do that this month, but I'm also going to see if I can find some time to build a Hero Factory hero or villain. No idea what I'm going to do yet, but we'll figure it out. But hey, keen to see what you guys do. And there's still a whole massive amount of this month left, so there's no rush. Like I said, the submission email showed you that at the start of the episode. It's also in the description below. Also in the description below is links to some of the mocks that you saw today. Not all of them had links because some of them were submitted emails, but a good amount of them do, so check out some of the other stuff that these builders have done. There's also links to my own social media, my Patreon, all sorts of different stuff there for you to check out as well. Thank you very much for watching. Happy HF Feb. I'll see you next time. Happy building, and bye for now.